Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Life Uncorked. I'm super excited to introduce you to my guest, who's also a good friend, Tim Kish. He is an American football coach with quite a storied career at some top schools you may have heard of. I don't know, Purdue, Illinois, Ohio, Arizona, Oklahoma, and even now in retirement, because no one really retires anymore, do they? Tim is continuing to mentor and change lives through his work with the National Football Foundation as Southern Arizona's chapter president. So, without further ado, hey, Timmy, how are you? Welcome.
I'm doing great, Mel. And thank you so much for humbling me and asking me to be a part of this today.
Well, I appreciate your time, and I know our community is really going to appreciate your story because it's inspirational. It's not without its challenges and detours along the way. And how did you end up at this point in your life now with the NFF and doing what you're doing?
My dad was my biggest influence in my life. My dad was a high school and college basketball coach. And as a matter of fact, yeah, my brother was a coach as well. And my sister might as well have been a coach because she was in theater and was a director. So all of us kind of tied into my dad's work life. But he was so influential to all three of us that it made it pretty easy for us to head in that direction. My first job out of college was at Marymount High School in Cincinnati, Ohio, and I was an assistant basketball and football coach there. So I really wasn't sure what direction I was going to go in. And then I applied for the master's program at Bowling Green State University, and they had a graduate assistant job open there in football. So I left Cincinnati after 2 years and went to Bowling Green and got my master's degree. Football seemed to be the direction I was heading in, but I still wasn't 100% sure. 41 years later and coaching at the highest level in Division One, I guess football was the right sport for me to pick. So
It's a good choice.
I was at West Point coaching the Army football team for 8 years, which was a wonderful experience. In 2003, Mike Stoops hired me here at the U of A, and I was thrilled to come to Tucson. After I left Arizona, I went to Oklahoma and worked for his brother, Bob, for another 8 years, and worked with Bob Stoops until he retired, and then Lincoln Riley my last 2 years. So we just played in our third semifinal FBS Final Four, and unfortunately lost to Alabama in the Orange Bowl. And I'd been thinking about it for a while, but I decided it was time to retire and pass the baton. So we just loved our time here in Tucson. Our kids grew up here. Two of them went to the University of Arizona. One went to Ohio State. I don't know why to this day, but that's okay. But we knew in our minds we always wanted to come back here and live. And so for 1 year, I didn't want to watch football, but I'd never been to a tailgate. And so I went to three tailgates down at U of A.
What was it like being on the other side, your first time walking down?
It seems like everybody's in a good mood. They're excited for the game. And I didn't know what I was missing out on, Mel. So, and then the second or third year I was here, one of the board members from this nonprofit, the National Football Foundation, Southern Arizona chapter, called me up and asked me if I'd be interested in being on part of the board. And then I talked to Angela about that, my wife, and I said, I think this could really be a good organization. And she goes, well, why don't you suggest something and raise your hand? Well, you know what happens when you raise your hand. And in May of 2000, let's see, it was 2022, I actually became president of the organization.
What inspires you at this point?
Well, that's another good question. And I can tell you this. After 43 years as a coach, it was my livelihood, but it wasn't my life. So I prioritized, family and friends were the most important thing to me, and always have been. So when we moved back to Tucson, I was trying to figure out, well, what does retirement look like, And I knew I wanted to pay it forward in some capacity. So this nonprofit is going to be my way to stay connected in football and give back to the community that I really deeply care about. And I wanted to know what ways we could support football and grow the game of football in Southern Arizona. So we started developing a kind of a roadmap for what we wanted to get accomplished. We have 45 high schools under our umbrella. It's basically everything south of Phoenix. One thing that's really pretty cool, I think. So we started going to the high schools themselves and presenting the awards there so that the kids could have it in front of their peers. And we will go during end of year assembly, senior recognition night, whatever it is that the administrators want us to do, then we'll show up at those particular schools and hand those awards out. And that's been really, really a home run for us.
I can attest to that, having visited the showcase outside Phoenix, what you're doing to change these young men's lives and their futures and presenting opportunity for them to be seen by schools that maybe they wouldn't have the chance to be seen by. And I think I'm going to ask you how you want to be remembered. I know I can say that so many of the players will remember you and how you touched their lives. How do you want to be remembered?
Well, that's a good question, and I've got a few answers for that. I think, but I know it's a cliche, but I think at the end of the day, I just hope I can make the world a little bit better than when I found it. And like you said, I hope I can make a small difference in the lives of the youth of our community, and in turn, inspiring them to be future leaders who positively impact our community. Our hashtag is helmet on, helmet off. And I created that 2 years ago. I asked people, I said, well, what do you think this means? And I've heard every answer under the sun. But what it really means is we want to stay with them when they put their helmet on for the first time, and we'll stay there with them until they take it off the last time.
Well, you touched so many lives, and to your hashtag helmet on, helmet off, I love that you said you got so many answers about what that means, because what went through my head when you said it is what we've always believed, that it's what you do on the field is as important as what you do off the field. And I feel like you have made a difference while they're on the field with you, but now they're going out into the real world and taking those lessons, and grace with them, and bringing it back to you to share in their glory. It's wonderful.
Closer to home, though, I think I could say, I wish I hope I can be remembered as a good husband and a good father. Now a good grandfather. On top of that, a good brother, and my friends are so important to me. I really hope that I can be considered a good friend. I was lucky because my parents passed on to me how important it was to be a responsible adult, respect others, and be a good citizen and a good parent. And so, as a parent, they say happiness is when you realize that your kids have turned out to be wonderful and amazing kids. So, all three of mine, my two daughters, Megan and Emily, and my son Michael, have done just that for me and for my wife Angela. So, we're very, very proud of them.
What's next, Tim Kish?
Well, so I was very fortunate when I was in Norman, Oklahoma, to befriend a gentleman that was a pretty good country western singer. And he was a big Sooner fan, and he came to a lot of our home games, and he'd always come to our bowl games. And his name was Toby Keith. And unfortunately, he just passed away at the age of 62 from stomach cancer. And it was a very sad time for all of us that knew him, because he was a wonderful human being. He was so humble. So I'm going to share a little story with you. He was out in California golfing with Clint Eastwood. And at the time, Clint Eastwood was making the movie The Mule. And he had just wrapped it up. It had just finished being edited, and it was going to be on the market in the next couple months. And he and Clint were playing golf, and Clint's like 90 something. I can't honestly remember exactly how old he is right now, but I think I'm pretty close. And Toby asked Clint while they were playing golf. He said, "Well, keeps motivating you? Why are you doing this at this age? And he said, he turned to him and he said, Toby, he says, you can't let the old man in. And Toby went back to Norman. I don't know if you know this story or not. He was so inspired by what Clint Eastwood told him that he wrote a song. He said it took him 30 minutes. And he said he just did it for Clint and he sent it to Clint. He recorded it. He sent it to Clint. Clint said, I'm putting it in my movie. He says it's so dynamic. And, they ended up putting it in the movie The Mule. We got to think about the choices that we're going to make in the fourth quarter. So that's one thing I'm going to try to do is not let the old man in.
Those are great mantras, I think, for everyone. And to this the don't let the old man in, it encompasses so much depth and thought to this time in our lives that it's a beautiful reminder that we don't have to. And you don't. You are active and vibrant and making a difference every day still. And I suspect you will as long as you possibly can. And I really, really thank you for joining us today and taking your time to talk with the community. And keep making the most of your fourth quarter. Tim Kish, thank you so much.
Mel, it was a pleasure. I certainly appreciate having the opportunity, like I said before, to be with you today, and look forward to us carrying on our fourth quarter in a good way. So.
All right, everybody, we will see you next time on Aging Like a Fine Wine. Ciao.